So this is the last video that I'll do, and it is going to be a very brief overview video of module 5, because I believe that module 5 is something that you don't need a kind of a any kind of a training for this. It is something that you can read and understand on your own, and there are a couple of things that you need to remember. You need to put it in your memory, and some questions will be asked about that. But module 5, let me still give you a brief overview so that you understand what module 5 is all about. Probably if you don't have the access to GARP material and you are just trying to go through this entire course just out of curiosity or out of your personal interest, then also I'll give you a brief overview about what module 5 is all about. Module 5 has three things. It has data governance, it has model validation, I'll say model governance and model validation. So these are the three things that you will study in this chapter, and then you will go through each of these things one by one. Okay, so data governance, it has, there are a lot of things that you will study as a part of data governance. So it will start with something called as, so data governance will have a lot of sub parts. So there you will start with, say, data strategy. So in any organization, when you start working on, say, data governance, you start by making the strategy, which means that what is your vision? Okay, what is your vision of data governance? What is the goal of putting all of this data together in the first place? What is your priority? What is it that you want to put more stress on? What is it that you want to put lesser stress on? So there will be probably a few paragraphs on each of these things which are not hard to understand. You will, when you read, you will know. Then the second one is about the data quality. We have spoken about some of these things already in the duration of this course. That is the reason I don't want to repeat. The data quality is about accuracy of the data. You know this more than me by now. It is also about consistency of the data. Your data always needs to be warm. It should not be that I have 20 years of experience. 20 years back I used to work for, say, company X, and if your data still says that I'm working for the company X, then it is not consistent, it is not accurate, it is not warm, it is some stale data. So all of that can create a problem with respect to data quality. And whatever you do out of your data, whatever analytics you derive, whatever intelligence you derive, that's a part of how good or how bad your data is. And the integrity. So integrity means that if you have my address in your systems in, say, 2 or 3 different places, the address needs to be same. It needs to be reconciled so that you should not have multiple versions of the same kind of a data. The next thing is about data provenance. So this is more about the legal rights. Okay, so when you collect data, especially, say, some kind of an alternative data. So when we say alternative data, it means, like when you are doing some kind of credit assessment of your customers and you want to take some data from let's suppose their gas bills or their phone bills or mobile phone bills, etc., just to find out if they are credit worthy, if they are paying their bills on time, etc., then you need to know what are the legal rights for using that kind of data. So that's called as data provenance. The next one, the fourth one, would be data classification. So data classification means that in your organization you have data D, which is a combination of, say, multiple kinds of data. And as I said, alternate data can be one of these different kinds of data. Then you need to structure this data in such a manner that you understand that each of these data types, you cannot have a blanket regulations on each of this. Some is more publicly available. If there is some data which is, let's suppose, PII, then it needs to be heavily regulated. Okay, so data classification is about putting a structure on your data and some kind of confidentiality rules on each of these different kinds of data. Then you get into, say, metadata management. Okay, so metadata is data about data. So when you have the origin or the structure or the collection and documentation, and so you have to know that each of these data that you have collected, how have you collected, what has been the collection strategy. You have to put all the documentation in place, and you have to also put some kind of data management rules for each of these data. So there needs to be enough metadata about each of your data classification or each of the sub data that you have classified, so that you can manage them independently. Okay, so that's about metadata management. Then the next is about data protection. We spoke, I think in the last video we spoke about data privacy and cyber security and things like that. So this is more about security and compliance. Okay, so you need to have enough controls in place so that your data is encrypted, it is protected, it is given the authorization and authentication of users, and the data that they should be allowed to access, that also needs to be controlled very, very carefully. So that's on the data protection. Then I think after data protection, the next is on I already spoke about it just now. It is about data access. So make sure that your access mechanism, your permissions, your sharing of data is carefully thought of. Okay, the next is on the compliance. We spoke about GDPR, we spoke about consent, we spoke about minimization, we spoke about the other rights. Okay, other rights, ethical rights and other kind of regulatory rights of people, how their data can be forgotten, they can deny the access, etc., etc. So that's on the compliance part. And then there is the last part of data governance is about roles and responsibilities. And I think I have seen a lot of questions come from roles and responsibilities, which means that who in your organization, right from your board of directors to CXOs to senior leadership to employees, who has, most of the time the data governance and data governance is a part and parcel of everybody in an organization, but maybe like the strategy can be created by BOD and CXOs, etc., etc. So there is some kind of a RACI matrix that you may want to create on who is supposed to do what as a part of this data governance thing. Okay, so that is about data governance, and I'm just doing this in very, very brief. But you can give it a more thorough reading. Let me see what else I had written when I was preparing for my exam around a year back, or more than a year and a half back. The second is on the model governance. So we spoke about data governance, then we are getting into more of the model governance. And when you read about model governance, you will talk about model development and testing phases, and this is different from the regular model, the software life cycle that we spoke about at multiple phases in this course. This is more about governing the model. So when you start your model design or anything, you need to have some clear objectives. What is it that you are trying to achieve? What kind of data you are trying to use for your model development or model. Then what is your EDA, exploratory data analysis? So if you are doing exploratory data analysis, what is it that you have encountered or analyzed? Then you do some kind of a feature engineering, and we are talking about all of these with respect to model governance. Okay, so you make sure that when you do feature engineering, you don't include parameters which are not allowed from the regulator's perspective. Okay, then is your model selection. So if your regulators don't like data or models that are more complex or neural networks, you choose the simpler models. And then you talk about training and testing. What is the right sampling strategy? What is the right data set that needs to be tested on before you can actually deploy it and put to use? Then you also talk about as a part of this model governance itself, there will be various kinds of testing. There will be unit testing, which will primarily be done by the team itself. And then you will have a lot of questions about who is supposed to do what with respect to model governance in your GARP exams. And then there is component testing. So what happens in case you find anything hard when you are going through this chapter, you put it in comments. I can make a small video on some of these minor things related to those difficult parts of this chapter. But I believe that if you read this carefully, it's not as difficult as our module 2, which had a lot of math. That's why I'm just running through this. So there are strategies to do component testing, and then there are strategies to do integration testing, where different modules come together and they try to create a piece of software that is doing some kind of prediction. Then there is performance testing. So performance testing is not always about latency. It can also be about some kind of, say, catastrophic testing, or how it is performing with respect to a particular kind of a category of people, somebody who is not so much represented in your data set. Okay, and then there are some kind of stress testing, regression testing, and acceptance testing in the end. Okay, so when all of this would be done, then your model is good to go. It is good to go into production. And then you finally the last reading in this is around model validation. Okay, so model validation will have readings around who is the model owner. You need to make sure that there is a model owner who is responsible for that, for the upkeep of that model, and what could be the limits on making changes to this model. When you make any tangible change, it needs to go via those model governance policies, etc., etc. There needs to be model documentation. There also needs to be a kind of a model inventory which needs to be taken care of, and or some kind of a model landscape. These days some of these models are also put into the cloud, and there is some kind of a marketplace where you can keep not just your models but also your features, etc., and you can plug and play, and a lot of model governance can be done automatically. But anyways, let's keep that for some other video. And then there will be roles and responsibilities of various people engaged in this entire thing, who is responsible for what. There will also be readings about communication and interaction. So how various stakeholders will be engaged. So you may have to communicate with your business users to make sure that they understand the right use of these models. And if there is any, if your business tells you that we need to make some changes to the model, then you have to have some kind of a change management process, how a particular change is going to get implemented in your model, and then again it can go through the model validation kind of the framework. So I think I will give it a pause here. I know I have rushed through module 5 because it is all theoretical, and I did not want to talk about theory for hours and hours, and that's why I just wanted to give you a high level view of what module 5 covers. So I've just given you some kind of a TOC. And again, I am saying that while you read module 5, 99% you will not get any troubles. But if you read about some of these integration testing or some kinds of scenario based questions, and you find anything difficult, I will try to make more detailed video about that particular topic. I wish you all the best for your exam. 5 modules. Module 2 is most important. It is most mathematical, most quantitative, and it is weightage wise also. Module 2 will cover half of your questions that will come in your exam. Module 1 and module 5 are the least important, I would say, from the exam perspective, and module 3 and module 4 are also kind of important, so you get a lot of questions from module 3 and module 4 perspective as well. So that should cover you up, and the exam generally is not that difficult. It is not hard to pass in that exam. I can also do some kind of a live session. You ping me or you email me. My email is praval@gmail.com. This is W, sorry for my handwriting. So you email me if you think a live session. Most likely it is going to be a 1 hour session. Probably it is going to be a paid session, and I can come online for 1 hour and talk to you guys in person. And I can also make sure that I don't get 1,000 people in this 1 hour session. If too many of you are there, I can do multiple live sessions in a way that I can understand your questions, I can understand what the pain you are going through, and I can solve some of those problems online right then and there. If the people or participants are way too many, I can write them and respond back to you via email or otherwise. So maybe if you have your exam in October, maybe sometimes in the month of September we can do this live session. But I wish you all the best, and RAI is a very, very important and well respected exam. You all know GARP is the industry standard for risk. So best of luck, and pass in the flying colors. If you go through all my videos and you read the content that comes free from GARP, I don't think you need anything else. There are a lot of paid courses on Udemy and other places which will also get you through the same kinds of concepts. I don't think you need to do anything else if you go through my course, and if anything is needed, we can do a live session. Thank you and all the best. Bye bye.